Hello there, everybody, and welcome once again to Harrah's Hoosier Park, as it is time to take a look at the third jewel of the Triple Crown, the Belmont Stakes. Michael Chamberlain here with Rick Moore, Emily Gaskin, and Jacob Reinheimer, as we are going to analyze the field of 9 going a mile and a half in the Test of Champions. And, we were talking here 3 weeks ago about how the Preakness really didn't make anybody, want to write home. I think this field is terrific. There's a lot of really high-quality horses in here, and I think we're going to be in for a great race.
I think this field is stellar, and I think there's a lot of, one of those personal, they say, enclosed stories, with Forte and, some of the other horses coming back from the Derby. But I think Forte is creating, I don't know if everybody likes Forte, but I think he's creating a lot of buzz because he was supposed to be the favorite in the Derby.
Right.
Yeah, he certainly is. Like you said, there's going to be quite a few. There could be possibility of quite a few storylines. Like you said, I think Forte being, no pun intended, or the opposite front runner as far as that story is concerned. But like you said, say what you will about the Preakness and say what you want about the Belmont. They say the Test of Champion, but I think they have assembled a very, very phenomenal field.
Yeah, kind of seeing in the Belmont what we didn't see in the Preakness with 5 horses from the Kentucky Derby making their way to the Belmont. I always think that makes for a good story just because we get so familiar with all of those Derby horses. They come back a few weeks later here for the Belmont. Like you said, we're going to see some really nice top-end 3-year-olds here in the Belmont.
And a couple did come back from the Preakness. National Treasure, who did win the Preakness 3 weeks ago, and Red Route 1, who ran in Baltimore as well as part of this field. It's a very good field of 9 as you take a look at the board here with Tapit Shoes 20-1, Tapit Trice 3-1.
An announcer's nightmare.
Yes, I know. You got the two Tapits right next to each other.
Not only do you have Tapit Shoes and Tapit Trice, but they drew right beside each
other. Right. Oh, yeah. Well, that had to happen.
Yeah, had to happen.
Archangelo is 8-1. National Treasure, the Preakness winner, is 5-1. Il Moracolo, who I think it would be a Moracolo if this horse actually were to be a part of it, is 30-1. Forte is the morning line favorite at 5-2. Hit Show 10-1. Angel of Empire 7-2, and Red Route 1, the other horse from the Preakness, 15-1. So a really strong field of 9 going postward here. And I would like to say that I thought it was a tough race to handicap, but taking a look at it, I think there are certain horses that just kind of stand out as we're looking at this. I mean, obviously Forte is a very strong favorite, and you're taking a look at Angel of Empire that stands out. The Preakness winner, National Treasure, stands out. Even horses that are a little bit of a price, Archangelo and Hit Show, and this is really a great race.
It's really an outstanding field. My first couple picks I felt pretty good about, but after the first 2, I could have gone about 6 other different ways. I
think it's a very wide open race, which makes for a great betting race.
Yes.
As I say, looking at some of these, whereas we're going to put the selections up here shortly, I'm sure a lot of us have gone with some of the lower horses on the odds, but I do think that there are quite a few possibilities of some nice prices sneaking in there and getting some really decent combinations as far as wagering.
Yeah, kind of as you said, there are really only a couple horses that I just drew a line through that I didn't like, that I really couldn't make a case for. Otherwise, I thought the top end, especially the top end of this field, you could really go any different way. With Forte, Tapit Trice, any of these horses, Angel of Empire, which I know Michael, you and I agreed on. So I thought there are a lot of ways you could go on top and some prices you could use underneath.
Well, we joked about the Tapit connection there with a couple, but let's not forget, Tapit has been a very strong sire in this race. I mean, he's produced several winners of the Belmont Stakes since he's been on sire duty, so he's not a name you can ignore.
Well, his horses, they run all day. His offspring, they seem to be able to run all day.
Yeah, you talked a little bit about Tapit Trice. His Derby to me was just a question mark. He was my Derby pick.
Mine also.
Yeah,
Emily.
And you talk about Tapit and the things. It really was just a question mark for me. Obviously, things didn't set up for him. He was forced wide, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, and he got off to such a bad start. I mean, the only horse that had a worse start was my horse, Derma Sotogake.
Right.
So
he was basically left at the gate.
Pretty much.
He pretty much lost all chance right at the
and
start.
But remember, the same thing happened to him in Florida. When he was able to come back and win the Tampa race.
And to that point, that I kept wanting to go back to Tapit Trice. I was high on him for the Derby, obviously, and Tapit, and this horse, and even Todd Pletcher has said from the get-go that this horse was like a mold for the Belmont, that, he was made for a race like the Belmont. But talking about that, his racing style, and they historically say that the Belmont does not favor a closer. Big Sandy does not favor a closer. And so that, it just left me even more questions as far as Tapit Trice is concerned.
Yeah, and just one more note on Tapit. I just saw this in some of my research before. One more winner in the Belmont will be Tapit's fifth sired in the Belmont. That'll give him the record for Belmont winners. He's tied right now with Lexington.
It's amazing.
He's got 2 in here that he sired and 4 other in here that he's the broodmare sire. So
Right.
he has got his hands all over this Belmont
He
Stakes.
does.
Yes.
So who's going to lead this pack into the first turn?
I kind of tend to think it's going to be probably National Treasure going for the lead. And based off the last race, I mean, Il Miracolo went gate to wire in that last race at Gulfstream. He could apply some token pressure. The thing about it, though, I don't think National Treasure is going to be able to do what he did in the
No.
Preakness
No.
and slow this thing down to a crawl
Yeah.
because somebody's going to have to go out there with him and maybe just press it a little bit. And I just can't see him. I can't see
Getting
them just
away
being
with
so
the way,
pedestrian.
yeah.
No way.
That was
no way.
almost a 49.5 in a Triple Crown
Incredible.
race.
Incredible.
The Preakness, that's incredibly slow.
Incredible. You see
And-
that on a Wednesday at
Yeah.
Ellis Park or something. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
So he basically won that race at the first half mile.
Yeah.
Yes. And by the way, all credit to Blazing Sevens for very nearly getting by
Oh,
him.
he
That was
did-
a heck of a
he
race he
ran a
ran.
Yeah.
great race.
We can't ignore that because he's not here. He's not in the Belmont, but I mean, certainly a fantastic effort from that horse as well. So as we take a look at the picks, as we will now put up our selections for the Belmont Stakes, you see that Emily and Rick do agree on Forte.
That's
and
never
Jacob,
good because we agreed on the
We've got the exact. We got the trifecta.
We got the
Emily and I've
trifecta.
got the trifecta.
Yeah,
do.
exactly. And Jacob and I agreed on the Preakness,
It's
and that the horse scratched. We didn't even get credit for that either. So, but we come back. Jacob and I have Angel of Empire, and Emily and Rick have the same trifecta, the same top 3 up there. Let's talk about the 2 top picks. And as you guys have both selected Forte, what do you have any possible second thoughts about the fact that this horse is coming back off such a long layoff and now
Ladies
has to go
first.
a mile and a half?
Obviously, yeah, and like I said, I narrowed it down as you guys were talking about. It was easy. I shouldn't say easy. It's never easy handicapping, but I got to my top few selections rather quickly. And then as you try to whittle it down and things, and that was one of the things, obviously, that I kept going back to as far as Forte is concerned, as far as obviously off of the scratch, the soundness issues. But you go back and you watch his works, and I really think he's working just as well as he ever has. If anything else, I think he's going to be super fresh coming into this race, off of that layoff. And the thing that I like, he's got wins at this distance, obviously bred to run at this distance as well. But just like I said, his freshness coming into it, and obviously they're not going to race not a sound horse. So I have to believe that, if anybody's got this horse ready, it's going to be Todd Pletcher.
My only look, I like Forte. I've been on the Forte bandwagon all year, and even when people doubted his race in the Florida Derby, I thought it was a great race. But my concern is Emily's right. He is a fresh horse. He's coming off a bullet work. They put speed into him. That's a grade 5 furlong.
Yes,
work.
it is. Definitely.
I just hope he's not too fresh and chomping at the bit to get out. I think he needs to be. He's a good mid-pack horse.
But I will say to your point there is, when you've watched him in these other races, is that he does take care of himself. And that was almost a fault of mine when we were talking about the Kentucky Derby, is that he wasn't one of those horses that, was authoritative. I mean, he was authoritative. That's not the word I'm looking for. But I feel like he took care of himself when he did win the way that he won.
He's also one of only 2 horses in this race to have won a race previously over the Belmont track.
Yeah, and I misspoke earlier. I said at the distance. I meant at the track.
Okay, yes.
So I misspoke on that.
The other of that being Arcangelo, who just won the Peter Pan at a mile and an eighth. And the jockey of Mage, Javier Castellano, is going to have him in this particular race, Arcangelo, who he was aboard for the Peter Pan victory and is going to be aboard this horse. Again, this is one of the horses that has a Tapit broodmare sire here, as this one is by Arrogate out of a Tapit mare. Horses coming back from winning the Peter Pan, going on to, I could think of Conquistador Cielo, and that was back when they ran the Peter Pan the week before, and then he came back and won the Belmont a week later, 41 years ago.
Woody Stevens, right?
That was one of the 5 in a row that he had
yeah.
back there in the 80s, which I don't know anyone's ever going to do that
I
again.
don't
That's
think
just
so,
that's just one of the more
that's gonna
incredible
happen
things
again.
ever. So as we say, I have Forte second. Jacob has no Forte anyway. So why is he not your Forte?
I just decided I think if you're going to take a swing against him, this is the time to do it.
Okay.
Off the layoff, off with the foot stuff with the Kentucky Derby. I just think if you're going to get him, now's the time to go against him, especially with the money I think he's going to take with this Belmont. I expect him to be the favorite, so I'm trying to go against the chalk a little bit. And like I said, I think if you're going to get him, this is the time to get him.
All right, so that as I say, I have the horse second. I think that I'm kind of leaning the same way you guys are. That I think he's going to be ready to go, and that workout really did kind of drive that point home, coming back off the break. Plus, you get Irad Ortiz riding the horse as well. So, but Jacob and I share the top pick of Angel of Empire, and we were talking about this before we started shooting this. No one is talking about this horse.
He's rather
I
quiet.
love
It's
this
rather
horse.
quiet.
I
He
mean,
is completely under the radar.
I love this horse. I've loved this horse all year, and why they're not talking about him, I don't know. He never puts in a bad effort.
No,
Agreed.
I mean, he
Agreed.
ran a good race in the Derby.
He did.
He just couldn't quite get to the top 2,
Yeah.
given where he was. And he came from 16th, and Mage just got a little run on him, and that's why Mage won the race, and he was third. They're adding blinkers for this race, which I think is an interesting tack. That equipment change could certainly make a difference as well.
So I think they're going to want him a little bit closer, putting the blinkers on. They're going to want him a little bit
I think
closer.
they want him a little bit more in front, or up toward the front.
That's
Yes,
right, yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, and I agree. It's kind of interesting, the lack of talk about Angel Empire when he really was kind of the it horse for the Kentucky Derby off those 2 wins in Arkansas. Actually went off as the Derby favorite at 4-1, a tepid favorite, but still favorite nonetheless. And like you said, I really thought he'd win a really good race. He did a lot of work kind of going into that last turn, was on the rail, then had to swing all the way out. Was actually right behind Mage at the top of the stretch. Mage just had the momentum and had the jump on him. But he was still gaining down by the wire, still going forward. I think he'll handle the distance well. Brad Cox already does have a Belmont win. So he knows how to get one ready for this. I just like Angel of Empire a lot. He's as my top selection in here.
And he also did put up the best last race buyer of this field in that Derby with 104.
Yep.
So I don't think that's anything to sneeze at, because if you go back to the Derby, the horse that had the best last race buyer going into that was Two Phils, who finished second off that last race that he had at Turfway. I know, understand it's a different surface, but still, the best last race buyer was certainly one that was right there at the very end in Louisville. So I think Angel of Empire, Flavian Pratt, and again, he really ran a good race in Arkansas. We were very impressed with that. Very good race in Kentucky. Just ran out of time to catch the top 2. And if you take a look, he ended up going off the favorite in the Derby.
Yeah, I'll be stunned if he's not in the superfecta, somewhere in the superfecta.
I agreed.
Yeah,
I'll be stunned.
he's got to be there somewhere, and I think he's going to be on top. So I like that, and I like Classic Empire. I picked him in the Derby his year, and I like his offspring quite a bit. So I'm on Angel of Empire here as well as Jacob. Now, as we said in this field of 9, maybe not as much of an opportunity to find a long shot or a price horse in there, but I think that the horse that might do something at a nice price is Hit Show.
Yeah,
Agreed.
I was going to ask you, who's the one horse? Everybody's always got one horse you leave off your ticket. Who's the one that's going to come back and bite you? Hit Show is my 5th horse.
Right.
And the reason no one knows that track, and I don't care who's. I will say Irad Ortiz, but Manny Franco is the master in New York.
Yeah.
He is the master, and he knows that track as well as anybody.
And let's not throw out the fact that he ran 5th in the Derby. I mean, that's not that bad.
No.
You get a check out of that. He ran a good race. He was 24-1. He'd been the betting favorite in all of his previous races, and he was second in the Wood Memorial behind a huge long shot and lost by about that much. I think 10-1 on this horse is a very nice price. And oh, by the way, he's one of the ones that has Tapit on the dam side.
Right.
Yeah, and like you said, he went that Kentucky Derby. I was impressed. He really wasn't that far off that just insane pace throughout that entire race. and held on, as you said, nicely fifth. He faded a little bit in the stretch, but like I said, his horses that were as close to the pace as he was, really him and two fillies are the only one who were relatively anywhere to be found down the stretch there. So I think he'll hang around. He's just kind of a nice grinded out type horse, and I think that fits nicely for the Belmont.
Yeah, he might also work out a really good trip given his running style, because you think, okay, we think National Treasure is going to go first, and if somebody or Vil Miracolo or somebody allows a little pressure on there, this horse could be sitting right off that pace and just get the absolute garden trip of the day.
Hit Show. I thought he ran really well in the Derby. He made a big move. If you remember, going into the far turn, he made a huge move. Looked like he was almost going to go to the front, and he made that move, and it just looked like he just ran out of steam, a little bit of steam.
I think that's where the pace being a part. I think that's where it kind of caught up to him right there.
Emily, who's your horse? Who would be your fifth horse in this race?
Yeah, Hit Show was one that like I said, as I had my top few, and then Hit Show, I kept going back. And I'll be honest, I did take a long look at Red Route 1. Steve Asmussen, he was one that, sire by Gunrunner, and didn't race bad. He was a similar story in the Preakness, a slow pace, and he held his ground, made up ground in the stretch. He raced well. It was, one of those races that was a little tough to kind of gauge, and obviously coming into this race, he's got 10 lifetime starts, so he's certainly well raced. But he was one that I considered that I think will obviously go for a price, and if he's on the Superfecta ticket, it would not surprise me and be one that I would tell myself I told you so.
Right, and I think the biggest thing about him too is as we say, deep closers don't usually win the Belmont. I think that running style is what kind of kept me off of him a little bit, just because. And whether it's a fact or an old wives' tale or whatever, you just get that in your head that no one's going to come from way out of it to win the Belmont. It just doesn't happen. So for me, the fifth horse, it's one of the two Tapits.
Yeah.
It's either Tapit Trice or Tapit Shoes, because I don't have either of them on the ticket here. And the fact that Tapit Trice is continuing to have issues getting out of the gate, I just really didn't, and especially at 3-1.
Yeah,
I just can't endorse that. And I'm sure the horse is going to win by 10 now.
I think that if there's a question on any horse, and I think the biggest question is on Tapit Trice.
Yeah,
who's going to show up on Saturday?
Right,
because I thought he was so disappointing disappointing coming out of the gate. I mean, he just didn't look like it was his day. Is it going to be his day Saturday? I don't know.
Yeah.
And again, there's a lot less traffic and a lot more time here, so a lot of those factors in the Derby, won't be at play here. But looking at Tapit Shoes, this horse was a $300,000 purchase by Tapit out of a Flower Alley mare. Now I know Flower Alley ran in the Derby, but not necessarily one of the top sires. But this horse, if you're looking at a horse that's a Tapit horse at a price, 20-1 is nothing to sneeze at, but I don't necessarily think that, given the human connections, Brad Cox and Jose Ortiz, I don't think you can discount this horse, but I wouldn't necessarily be rushing to the windows to put him on top with a $100 win bet. I think he may trundle up there to be part of it.
Yeah, I think National Treasure, it's going to be interesting to see how far he can carry that speed in this race, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, National Treasure's the one I threw just because I thought he would be the pace of the race. And if he can steal a little bit, I think he could still be there. But it's all going to depend on the pace that he gets up front. But I do expect him to be the pace.
Of the four I have there, that would be the one I would take out, is National Treasure, just given the pace possibility. Because if someone goes with him, I think he fades. If no one goes with him, I think he hangs on for a chunk of it. I don't know he can get a mile and a half. But I do think that, of the four that I have up there, if I were going to take one out, it would be National Treasure.
But he's a Bob Baffert horse. You know what the orders are going to be.
I understand. And you look at up and down the line here as far as the trainers are concerned. You've got nothing but the best here. You got Pletcher, Asmussen, Cox has got three of them in here. Baffert and even John Antonucci, who's got Arcangelo. He's hitting at 15% so far, and Antonio Sano with Il Miracolo. That's again. I think Il Miracolo was the one horse we probably all drew a line through right off the bat. But the horse is 30-1 and did win the last time out. It was a combined 35 lengths behind Forte in the two races in Florida.
Yeah, it's a far cry from an optional claimer.
Yeah,
to the Belmont.
I appreciate the fact that they're going to make the effort and run. And you've got 3 straight bullet workouts coming in, and I love Gunrunner. You can't sell Gun Runner
Yep.
short. Another one, by the way, with the Tapit Broodmare. But I just don't see Il Miracolo being a part of this as we get down to brass tacks. So, as it is, we have 2 Fortes and 2 Angel of Empires. And I'm actually impressed you guys have the exact same trifecta
How about that?
going down
How
here.
about
And the inclusion of Archangelo, by the way, from Emily, you're the only one that has that one up on the top 4, coming in here off of that win in the Peter Pan. Was there something that he just kind of stood out?
Yeah,
for him?
I went back and watched that race, and he was a decisive winner. I obviously like that. He's coming in on a 2-race win streak, so he's racing with some confidence. Javier Castellano obviously is a plus there as well. The horse is 2 for 3 this year. So like I said, I think this is a horse that's trending in the right direction. I like that he's had a win over the surface. I thought that was a pretty gritty win. You go back, you watch it. He could have gave it up at the top of the stretch, still dug in and got it done. So I like that for the horse. It was a very game effort. And as you talk about, I think this horse will. I think he's going to work out a good trip. And I think he can go right with these and factor for a price.
Let me make one comment on him. He went from a one-turn, couple mile races at Gulfstream Park, to a mile and an eighth, and I know
Right.
that's it's
still
basically
a one turn. Yeah, it's
it's still a
one turn at
mile and an
Belmont,
eighth. And I think what Emily said, the trip over the track will do him a world of good.
No, go ahead.
He was actually my the fifth horse that I just thought it was a pretty big jump from the Peter Pan to the Belmont Stakes. That was
great.
the
Yeah,
only concern there, racing the maiden 2 back. But he's definitely getting hot. They stretched him out, as you said, to the mile and eighth last time. He seemed to take to that pretty well. The speed figure, 97 speed figure, which was pretty impressive. He was just the one, I thought the upside was there. I just wasn't confident if he could go with these.
If you go to the start 3 backs, you notice he finished behind Kings Barnes, who was your pick to win the Derby 5 weeks ago too. So it's not like he's been running against a bunch of slouches here. It's 8-1 is going to. I don't know what the price is going to be on this horse come post time, but he could be another one of those that could be a nice value shot in here.
We started the show talking about Forte, and we haven't talked about him since then. But, you look at his past performances on this horse.
Yeah,
he is an amazing horse, and he's taken on all comers. He's lost 1 race, and that was early in his career. And since then, he's defeated everybody.
Yeah, again, in those 2 races in Florida, the Fountain of Youth was impressive. He won by 4.5 and never looked like he was in trouble at any point of it. And then the Florida Derby, he was, passed by the horse that won the Kentucky Derby and then went back and re-rallied and passed him in the stretch. Hasn't been out to the track since for a race as far as is concerned. But the horse is by violence out of a blame mare, so there's nothing wrong with the lineage at all. I mean, that's certainly strong. I probably would have had him on top if not for the fact that I just liked Angel of Empire a little bit more. I think those are the 2 that stand out here, and I think those are the 2 that are. It's going to come down to when we get down into the stretch in the Belmont Stakes.
I wouldn't be surprised if either one of them won it. I've been a big Angel of Empire fan also, but you got to make a decision somewhere, and I just went with Forte.
and I know we slightly mentioned it. Who do we think will be the post-time favorite?
I think the post-time favorite is going to be Forte. I think Forte. My guess probably he goes off about 8-5, 9-5, somewhere in there. I think he's going to end up taking a little more than that 5-2.
I do think the morning line's correct with Forte and Angel of Empire. Actually, Tapit tries is 3-1. I would have made Angel of Empire.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Second choice
I think that's based on the Tapit.
Yeah.
I think that's entirely based on the Tapit presence there in the lineage, and I think that probably played a little more of a factor, especially given the way they ran in the Derby. I mean, because you think the last time out 5 weeks ago, the Angel of Empire, basically ran Tapit twice into the ground. He just couldn't quite catch the top 2. I think that's more the Tapit thing than anything else.
And one note there with both Tapit, Trice, and Forte, Todd Pletcher looking to go back-to-back in the Belmont. Won it last year with Mo Donegal, looking for his 5th Belmont overall. So I expect he's got a pretty good shot for his 5th Belmont with those 2 and to go back-to-back here. And like you guys said, if Forte's going to be in the gate, they're going to have him ready. Todd Pletcher's going to have him ready. So, like you said, I expect him to be the favorite. I'm just going to try to beat him here. But
Can you imagine walking into the Todd Pletcher barn or the Brad Cox barn every morning, and basically you're looking at an all-star team.
Yeah, the
An
NFL.
all-star-
Yeah.
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 And a
Who do you want to
NFL
talk about
lineup,
today?
right?
Yeah, back in the day, like, oh, we could have Johnny Bench or Hank Aaron or any one of these long list of guys,
Well, and speaking of that, we have talked about the Belmont Stakes, but the Belmont card, incredible.
Yes, it is.
Yes,
It
the
is.
Caravel race, I believe the turf sprint, the Jaipur,
Yep.
that race is incredible. I mean, there's, that clear favorite is Caravel in there, but there are any one of 10 horses that can win that race.
And you got Cody's Wish,
yes.
and I'm
I'd
looking
love
forward to
it.
that.
Yeah, I
the
can't wait to watch that one, Emily.
mile. So
And
looking forward to
Clariere and Secret Oath
Yeah.
are
That's
going to
right.
go at it again.
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's going to be a tremendous race. It's, as we were talking, it's basically a mini Breeders' Cup
Right.
about 5 months before the Breeders' Cup.
that. Exactly.
I think that Met Mile to me has always been like one of the races I've always it's kind of you talk about a test of a strong horse. I mean, these horses, there's no taking hold. They're racing a mile.
That's right.
And they're going
Oh, yeah.
all out. It's an all-out sprint.
That's
1 mile.
especially the 1-turn mile like that.
Yeah.
They're just going to
Yeah,
go,
they're
and
just
that's
And they're
going
going
to
to go 44 and change in a mile race.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
easy.
Wow.
Speaking of go, we shouldn't overlook the fact that this is the 50th anniversary
It is.
of the 224 that Secretariat put up. Obviously, I don't think we're going to see a 224 come Saturday, but I think usually these races go about 228 somewhere in there. I think we could probably see a good 227 gen change or 228 somewhere in that neighborhood.
Speaking of Secretariat's Belmont, I can watch it as many times as you can show it, but the Chick Anderson's call of
Oh, yeah.
Secretariat, and it still gives me
The well-oiled
goosebumps.
machine, is that this one?
Moving
it's
like a tremendous
Tremendous
machine.
machine.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's
that's
just
right.
And on a personal note, Chick Anderson is my favorite race caller of all time, and he's still my hero as far as my profession is concerned. And the fact that is his moment for eternity
Yeah.
is just it's
could-
very special to
it
me.
could be the greatest call of all time.
Agreed.
It's up there with Al Michaels. Do you believe in miracles?
Yes,
You
it is.
know,
Absolutely.
be on your headstone, right?
Yeah,
Right.
I mean that's it just doesn't get any better than that. No one will ever top that. Ever.
Right. Agreed.
Ever. I mean, you think of all the great races that Tom Durkin has called and
Yeah.
everything like that, and he's had his great moments and everything and his great calls. But every you think, well, let's think about a race call. What do you think of? He is moving like a
And
tremendous machine.
it's not like it was scripted. That
No,
No,
they have
just
he's calling
bingo.
a race,
That's it.
I mean, he didn't know
It
the
is.
Secretary was going to be on top by 40 lengths.
Yeah,
Right.
just incredible, and that's for me is in my profession at least. We all hope we rise to the moment when something like that happens.
Right.
And
Exactly.
to have met that moment that day is why Chick Anderson is Chick Anderson. I think
Yep.
that's the way you put that. So that is a look at the Belmont Stakes as we have the third jewel of the Triple Crown coming up on Saturday. And, of course, here at Harrah's Hoosier Park, we will have all the races from Belmont Park. You can watch and wager on them right here with us. We do invite you out, and we do hope that you will be a part of our Belmont Stakes festivities. We've got quite a few things going on Saturday, am I
Yes.
correct?
We'll have some mega bets. We will have a progressive pick'em promotion on the kiosk. We are going to have a $500 mega bet for some of our VIPs. We'll have mega bets for all of our folks. Those will actually be on Harrah's Hoosier Park races, so we're looking forward to that as well. We've got that adjusted post time, so
Right, 7:20.
7:20 p.m. And so we're very much looking forward to it. Great card as well. Here
Yes,
on
yes.
tap as well,
Post time
so.
for the Belmont, by the way, is 7:02. So that's
720 might be in jeopardy. It might be a
Yeah.
little
we
bit
may
later.
have to push that back. So, and again, great job again by everybody here, Jacob, Emily, Rick, as we looked at the Belmont Stakes, and we are going to do some more of these as we go through the summer. I know
Yep.
we're going to plan to do the Hambletonian. Hopefully, the Travers comes up with a good enough field that we'll be able to do that too, and no one gets scared away. We get a nice 10, 11 horse field
Yeah.
in the Midsummer Derby. We can do that as well, and I know that you've enjoyed our presentations out there as well, watching on YouTube. We want to thank you for watching our videos, and thank you for being a part of our Triple Crown previews here. For Jacob, Emily, and Rick, I'm Michael Chamberlain, wishing the best of luck to you all.